Sandy, now that you're in year two, I'm curious what are some of the principles of this team culture that is carried over from year one, and sort of how have you seen it evolve early in year two? And then I do have one for Jonathan.
Yeah. Look, I think for us, we're in the process of doing our culture meeting, and we had a really great one today, and I won't go too much depth into that, but when you build a culture, you build an environment, a culture by values that the players agree on, because it is ultimately they have to drive it, and then that's our environment. So then we live, eat, and breathe. That's easy for me to hold them all accountable, can't we? So yeah, they come up with it, but every team you have, there's a lot of you talk about teamwork, trust, accountability, their respect, all those things. They always come up, which is great because that's how you just laying the foundations. We talked about that. We have to have a winning culture in place before we can do anything on court, because that helps to have the most success. So we're in the process of doing that. It's been fun. I think we've got our word, what we're going to live by this year, and excited to see how it grows. And we will face obstacles. You have the culture in place, because how do you act when those obstacles, we start losing some games, things are not going well? And that will happen. How do we handle that to make sure we stay on track? And but yeah, a lot of the principles are really the same. It's just a new group, and you allow them to speak them out loud.
I appreciate that. And Jonathan, for you, when you were talking to season ticket holders on Saturday, you mentioned that sort of what you want to do is you want to try to, or with this season, you want to try to raise the profile of the league in a meaningful and mainstream way. So I'm just curious, besides winning a lot, what are the ways that you see this team doing that?
I think we see it in this room right now. I mean, I was talking to Ohemo when you all walked in, and by the way, thank you for being here. But wow, like there's a lot of media people here for our practice. This is awesome, and I think you're going to have the opportunity to cover the greatest players in the world in one spot. That's amazing. It's a great opportunity, but it's a great opportunity for fans of basketball that maybe haven't had the chance or really the opportunity to key in on our league. Now's the time. And so I think through your coverage, your storytelling, our players, I think it's a great opportunity for something that's pretty unprecedented.
Meredith?
Hi, Sandy.
You're good. You're on.
Oh, sorry. Meredith Cash from Insider. I have a question about Sabrina. She's talked a lot about how important it's been for her to have a full off season and be healthy coming into this. I'm curious from your perspective what she's looked like mentally and confidence-wise, knowing that fact.
Oh, she looks great. I think you got to see a little bit of her. Last year she's coming in, she was rehabbing. She came in, she had a bit of a calf injury, and she was slow at the start of the season. And once she got confident, she got healthy, and you saw what the progress that she made and how good she was, and we put the ball in her hand. But now having an off season, she's just expanded her game. I think there's a little bit of a pop in her step, quite honest. I think she's a shot maker. I think her shots got quicker. I think everything's just got a little quicker because she could actually work on that area instead of just rehabbing and trying to heal a part of her body. She's a winner, we know that. She's a competitor. But I think she's training a little smarter. We're trying to make sure less is more. More doesn't mean better. So we're in that phase. But it's great. I think she's been, her leadership, you see that. I think that's another area she's improved on, because that's what we want from her as well too. But I think last year gave her a lot of confidence to be able to continue to take steps forward.
Thank you, Jonathan, Coach. Good to see you guys again. Jeff Magliacetti with All Knicks. My first question is for Jonathan. Seasons like these are why you hire a basketball mind, someone who's been with the games for years, like Sandy Brondello. So what gave you the confidence that she was the right person to lead this explosive, if not exciting, group forward?
Yeah, I think you said it. It's the basketball mind, right? But it's more than that. It's who Sandy is as a person. It takes a real unique individual to be able to galvanize a group like this. It's a collection of players. I don't think that's been put together before. But the part of that is Sandy's been in a team environment similar to this, right? When you go back to the Phoenix days, and she's been very successful with that. And I think Sandy doesn't skip any steps. Every day truly does matter. Nothing is a formality. Every exercise, every activity, every practice plan it has a purpose, and our players know that, and they execute on that purpose. And so, no, I couldn't think of anyone better to do the job.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And Coach, my next question is for you. Speaking of all the talent amassed on this team, you prepared for so many big games as an opponent against players like Vandersloot, like Jones, like Brianna Stewart. So now that you've had a week or two to have them on the floor, I'm sure you talked with them all season. How have they kind of embraced your system and what you're trying to build to lead this team to success?
Can't say I've had him on the floor yet, so still working on that fun part. Can't wait for that to happen. But it was good to see Stewie, return to play today. She was on court just moving. They're sponges, like JJ. They're watching. They pick things up really quickly. I think we're going to be able to open the playbook up a little bit. You heard me, you probably didn't in my huddle, but positionless basketball, because understanding how we can get the most out of each of them, and you need smart basketball players to do that. And that certainly helps. They communicate well with each other. They can, the terminology, the young ones are still learning to play the game, but these ones, hey, if you set a flare screen here, I'm going to do this and that, well, they can get it. You need really smart players to do that. So I'm excited just to get them healthy and continue to build. Like, hopefully that will be next week leading into our first game. Everyone can get on court, because it does take time. Those players had played together, so that's the advantage. But it is basketball's basketball, a little bit different terminology and system, but they're picking things up really quickly. Yeah.
Howard?
Jonathan, Sandy, Howard Magdal at the Nets. Good to see you both. Just obviously with the offseason that you had, putting yourselves in a position to contend for a title, I wonder for each of you, with that comes expectations. Do you feel as if something short of a championship is going to be a successful season this year, or is that really where the line is for each of you?
I'll start. Yeah, I think, look, to earn those to have expectations means we've earned them, right? And that's from this off season, and we embrace those expectations. But we know what comes with them, and that's a day-by-day process to get better. And every single player, including Stewie, wants to get better every single day, coaching staff, front office. And so that's what this is really about. And then from that, I believe good things will follow. The success will come as long as we're being really detailed in our process. And so, yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, of course, our goal is to be the last team standing. And we believe that we've got a process in place to lead us in that direction.
Yeah, look, we want to win. We know that. We want to win. We've got all these great players. Winning a championship, that's the ultimate goal. But as Jonathan said, like for me, we don't win championships in preseason. We don't win them in the start of the season. We win them at the end. So it's the win the day. We have to come to work and get better today. And that's building the foundation in the right way, not missing steps, because that's when it really comes back to haunt you. But we've got great players. These are high character players, and that was important for us, bringing them in. And they want to win, a little bit of sacrifice, and we just got to continue to just be process driven and to still work on the game that we're, at the right time, we're playing our best basketball, and hopefully that is a championship.
Ben?
Down here, Ben Pickman from The Athletic, right here. One for Jonathan. You mentioned this was a group that couldn't have or had not come together before, and knowing that you have experience in the league office, what impact or why was it important to have revised free agency rules in the most recent CBA? What impact do you think those revisions had to get you to this point?
I mean, it had a major impact to change the rules. I mean, opening up free agency is pretty much why we're here today, right? Talking about this very team. So I think what you're seeing is a player empowerment era, if you want to call it that, where players are getting to choose the location of their legacy. And I think that's really important. And we'll see where that goes in the future. But what you're seeing play out in real time is the effects of a CBA negotiation just a few years ago.
Hey, Sandy. Hey, Jonathan. Despite all of the moves you made to bolster the roster this offseason, there are still some decisions to be made in camp. So what are some of the focuses that you both have in looking at building out the back end of the roster?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's something that is quite honestly agonizing for me personally. We've got a lot of good players out there. I think you all saw them, and they all can't stay, and that's really unfortunate. When we're looking at that, there's a lot to consider. there's not only winning now, but we want this, as Sandy and I have talked about ad nauseum, is we want this to be incredibly sustainable. Part of that are rookie scale contracts. They're the production per dollar. What can we get out of that for not only now but looking forward? That's a consideration. This is going to be a roster that if we're at 11, those 9, 10, 11 players might get sporadic minutes. Are they okay with that? Is that something they want to buy into? So how are they as teammates in that situation? And then finally, I mean, we have to have the coaching staff have players that they can trust to go out there in situations, whether it's a depth situation or maybe we just need to change something up in game, and they can count on those players. So I think there's a myriad of factors in the decision.
Hey, Talia Minsberg at the New York Times. Thank you both so much. This is a question for both of you, but Jonathan, you said that you see this team and the season as one to really bolster and elevate the profile of the WNBA. And I know at the same time there was a lot of talk around this year's March Madness, the women's tournament, and how much attention was paid and viewership numbers for the first time in quite a while. So I'm wondering if you see those two audiences colliding at all, the attention, do you see that as a correlation? Do you see any of that momentum continuing to the W, or do you kind of think of them as different fan bases?
I would love to consider them the same fan base. I mean, it's fans of women's basketball. I think the tournament this year was phenomenal. The games were incredible, quality of play, all-time high. Our league's really good, and the basketball is second to none. And so if you're a fan of the game and you liked what you saw this spring, I would pay attention this summer. I think there's a real opportunity to see special play out there.
Alexa, sorry.
En route.
Alexa Philpott with ESPN. Sandy, you mentioned before your experience in Phoenix and how you had such a great collection of talent there, how that could help maybe even translate to this experience here. Where are some of the areas, I know you haven't gone on the court with a lot of the players that just got here, but where are some of the areas you think that experience in Phoenix can help the most as you're kind of working with this collection of talent with so many great superstars?
Yeah, look, I think when you've coached great players, great teams, you won a championship, you can learn from that. And we've got to not just, I won in 2014 and Seattle won in a few, but 2018 and the experiences, and then obviously Chicago's, they all look different, but how did they do it? Is that confidence, is that buying in really? No team can get where they win a championship without their best players buying in. And so we talk about that. That's a little bit of sacrifice, isn't it? So everyone, role definition, that's important for us. We've got a deep squad. Not everyone will get equal minutes. We know that. So we're happy with that to be along the ride and continue to push for us to be the best. But I think those experiences, you kind of go through it. There's, in Phoenix, I suppose I went on a pretty good running, 16-game win streak there. So that's always fun. But there's times where you learn a lot by when you do have a loss. How do you tweak it? How do you stay together? We've got to, staying united, that's a key part of success, isn't it? We've got to be a close fist. We are the hunted. We've got to make sure whatever happens, it's all about us. Whatever the media is saying, that's it. Don't let it, we've got to embrace the expectation, and we're not worried about, because we're not going to win right there. It's a process. And I suppose my personality, I don't get too high or too low, and I bring that. I don't. If you feel pressure, you might feel pressure here, but it shouldn't take us off course. There shouldn't be panic. We've got to stay true to what we believe in and continue to work together. And I've seen it. Great things happen if we can stick together.
We'll finish on Zoom with Oren.
Hi, thanks. Oren Westfeld with The Guardian. Question for Jonathan, kind of a two-parter, but you talked, I think, in the last presser about how player health is one of the most neglected areas in the league and how you guys have invested a lot into the performance team, stuff like that. Was that part of your pitch to Stewie and Vandersloot and part of the reason they chose this team, from what you understand?
Yeah, I can't speak. It's a great question. I can't speak for them. It was certainly part of the pitch, but it comes from a standpoint of we're a players first organization. I think we prove that time and time again. This is for the players. This is their league, and we want to make it the best possible experience for them. And I don't think there's any better way to do that than to invest in their health and well-being. I think what you're seeing right now, we're a little delayed on getting some of these players on court, but it's in their best interest. It's in our team's best interest, and so no, that's something that we're taking under advisement every single day on how to continue to get that department better. But they've been fantastic so far, and I think it'll pay dividends.
Perfect.
And then is it your hope or expectation that the rest of the league follows suit in terms of the performance team stuff?
Yeah, look, I can't speak on what anybody else does. I mean, there very well could be some other organizations that do a great job, so I'm not sure on that. But I think our goal is always to set the standard in everything that we do. So whatever that may be, I think ultimately, if and when this league expands, it would be a great honor if they copied us in the standards that we set. I think that would be saying a lot.
Thanks.
Perfect.